Well, Kristyn, thanks so much for doing this interview and talking a little bit about your journey in ADR as your first career. Do you mind if you just start, if you can just share your name and what you're currently doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. So I'm Kristyn Carmichael. I am in Phoenix, Arizona, and I currently run Couple Solutions Center and Miss Confidence, as well as act as the training director for the Lodestar Dispute Resolution Center at ASU College of Law.
Right on. So you've got your hands in multiple different spaces in dispute resolution. So can you talk a little bit about your, what made you actually want to do dispute resolution so early on in your career?
Yeah, so in undergrad, I worked for a law firm. They covered mainly property and business issues. And I had one attorney that I worked with who did mediations very rarely. She would really push her clients to try and settle. And I kind of gravitated towards her more than I did the other attorneys that were really more litigation minded. So I went to Michigan State's law school and they had a mediation program there. And I was just really interested in having a more collaborative model. I'm not a very competitive person by nature. I really like to have people come together and have a conversation. So I sought out the professor there, Pappas, who was teaching the program, and basically begged him to let me join the mediation team. And it was a great opportunity. I basically only did mediation during law school. And in Michigan, it's great because mediation is kind of an arm of the Supreme Court. So the court really promotes cases to go to mediation. And we have what are called community mediation centers. So I had the opportunity to work at a community mediation center where I ended up getting certified in civil, family, and agricultural mediation, which is its own unique thing, and really have never done anything since. So I had the great opportunity of actually starting my career in mediation. I never litigated a case, and I still haven't to this day. I only mediate with my clients.
So you're in a unique position because, I mean, Brian Pappas is on this blog as somebody who similarly chose ADR early on in his career. So I'm curious then what type of advice you got while you were in law school and studying under Pappas about pursuing a career in dispute resolution from him, from others, et cetera.
Yeah, so I worked a lot with Brian Pappas, and then also Peggy McDougall is the person that runs the center that I worked for. The nice thing was there was a lot of really positive messaging about being able to be a mediator, particularly in Michigan in that legal field. I have to say I got a lot of pushback from the legal community. The classic example is I had a mentor, his name is Larry, and he's white, male, in his 60s at the time, and he used to co-mediate cases with me. And we walked into a case when two men, white men, attorneys walk in, and they said, she's not mediating. And so really kind of gave that pushback just based on my age. I've had pushback based on my gender. And Larry was wonderful because he's like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. She's the one that's here to actually mediate this. Mind you, he was the the main attorney for the Lansing Police Department, like very experienced man. But he was so wonderful because I think his advice to me was always the best of just showing your confidence when you're mediating and just knowing that you know what you're doing. So regardless of how much pushback you're going to get, if this is what you really want to do, then you really have to have the confidence that this is going to be your path. It's going to be a harder path than, say, just getting a job at a law firm after interning there, for example. But if you really have the confidence to keep moving forward and the ability to continue to learn, that's the most important thing. I think regardless of what field you're in, a lot of people tend to just they settle into what they do and they don't want to continue to learn and grow beyond that. And I think mediation is such a beautiful field because you're never going to have the same case. You're never going to have the same situation. I to this day have clients, and I primarily just do premarital and divorce mediation. You would think it's the same because it's the same issues, but it's not. And so it's always an opportunity to learn. It's always an opportunity to grow. It's always an opportunity to do something different, which is actually why I took on the part-time role at ASU, because it's been a great opportunity to actually work with other people outside the mediation field to educate them about mediation and conflict resolution and get their perspectives outside of what I typically do in a family law context.
Well, so you just mentioned ASU. It sounds like when you were going to school in Michigan State and in Michigan, where there is a system for sending a lot of cases to mediation, and even though you got some pushback from attorney parties, you had a lot of support, it sounds like. Then you make this shift to another state, to Arizona. Can you compare, contrast sort of what that experience has been like, or just how things have evolved as you've continued pursuing this career?
So Arizona is very different. Michigan is very mediation positive. Arizona is not. So we're not a huge ADR state. There's a lot of amazing professionals here who have created brilliant businesses and structures around mediation. And also we have a growing collaborative law field here. So really bringing more of that collaborative aspect into cases. That being said, if I had stayed in Michigan, guaranteed I would have had a role, and it would have been a role that I could have stepped into very quickly. When I moved here, there's a lot of sending in my resumes and never hearing anything back, or saying that I didn't have enough experience, because in Arizona, a lot of mediators are going to be retired judges, which is typical in a lot of states. I had the amazing opportunity of getting a role with the Orrit Center for Divorce Mediation with Michael and Karen Orrit. And that was about over 5 years ago. And so I think it was the best opportunity because, one, they're wonderful people, but two, they were just kind of a year and a half into their own field, like growing the mediation practice themselves. So I really got to stay with them I was there for almost 5 years and really helped them grow the business and develop not only my mediation practice, but also just the fundamentals of, like, how do you track your cases? How do you get payment from your clients? Those things that are more back-end business aspects of things. So I was able to work with them to develop that and grow our team. And they've created an amazing team. At one point, we were about 10 people, and they're all so in love with the mediation field and so in love with the practice that it's just always a learning opportunity with them. So I definitely owe a lot to them, because otherwise I would have really had to just jump into the field by myself. There weren't really many other opportunities. And I think that's the biggest thing for individuals going into the ADR field now, is just realizing you might have to do it on your own. Like, you might have to jump in and do it on your own, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that it might be a harder or different path than what you were anticipating if you were looking at a law firm job, for example.
So when somebody is contemplating that decision, especially what I know is law schools, and when a lot of law students are presented it's not an easy path, but it is a path that is well worn. People understand it. There are steps along the way. Often your career services centers tell you, do this, do this, do this, and you'll land somewhere. It may not be your top choice, but you're going to land somewhere. Yeah. What advice would you give someone who is who's in that position and trying to figure out, do I really pursue mediation when I'm going to have to do this on my own and develop my own path to get there?
I think the one thing is seeking out mentors. So I think that's a big first step. There are a lot of amazing people in the ADR field that are really open to having a conversation about their practice and what they do. And even if you're willing to have an opportunity where maybe you're not getting paid, but it's just an internship or shadowing someone, just putting yourself out there. We have one of the coordinators at the Orrit Center, Giovanna. She is amazing at everything she does with the clients, but she emailed me probably 5 times over a 8-month period of time as an undergrad, saying that she wanted to be a mediator. And the reality was I was super busy. Her email was there, but it was just one of those things where I was slammed with clients. And a lot of times I would say people in the ADR field, they're on their own. They don't have assistants, or they're busy with their clients. They typically tend to be more solo practitioners. And so just continuing to reach out. I mean, honestly, the person will tell you if like, no, stop contacting me. But she's so sweet because she's like, I wouldn't have ever had this opportunity if it wasn't for you. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with me. That was your persistence. You kept emailing, you kept following up. And then she ended up like shadowing, just came in and shadowed, or she'd like make copies. She's like, I will do literally anything. And then she ended up interning for us. And now she works there. And so it's one of those things where I think you do have to be willing to start from square one, and you have to be willing to say like, maybe I'm not going to get paid for this, because the difference is a big law firm has the funds to pay their interns and pay them well. A solo practitioner is not going to have those funds. So really putting yourself out there and be willing to do work that you might not get paid a lot for, but you get a lot of experience. And also just looking for mentors and then other organizations. So as I mentioned, I had a great support system in Michigan. I never really stepped out of that support system until I came to Arizona. But when I did, then I learned about like APFM, the Academy of Professional Family Mediators, or we have a local chapter here for family mediators. There's so many organizations that you can be a part of. And then once you're there, you get the opportunity to learn and grow from people. So I don't think there's any set, requirement to have a certain background or have a certain way that you're going to do your practice. It's more just learning from someone that's already taken the steps to do so. That's going to be the biggest thing.
Is there anything else you would want to share about your journey that you think others would benefit from hearing, or advice that you would want to give folks that might be watching this?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that I hear, especially from law students now that I'm at ASU, is they're really passionate about the field, but they don't feel like they have enough experience. And the reality is a majority of the field is predominantly in an age bracket, just older. I would say that I was probably one of the youngest professional mediators because I got those opportunities that I did in law school and at the Orit Center. And so I just don't think that you should ever go into it doubting yourself. It's one of those things where you can always find someone that's going to help you. So as long as you're willing to reach out and ask for help, that's going to be the biggest first step. But never doubting yourself because of your age or your background, or you don't look like how other mediators are, or you don't do exactly the same process that they do. I've really tailored my process, and it's very different than most mediators. Like, I like all joint session. I would rather never caucus. I would like to keep everybody together. But in Arizona, 98% of mediators keep everybody apart. Or I do a flat fee instead of doing an hourly fee. It's what you make of it and what you think is going to be best for your clients. And just like any other business that you're creating, you just have to ebb and flow and see what works for your clients and what doesn't. And just, again, always be open to learning and changing and growing. But I think it's a big field that's going to grow and change in the future. And it's something that people should feel excited about getting into right away, instead of feeling pressured that they have to do something first. There's no requirement that you do something first. I didn't do anything first. And I'm so grateful that I didn't, because it's allowed me all of this time to grow in the field. And I have so many more opportunities in the future to do so because I did that.
So I have to ask you, and I know, and then we'll start wrapping up, but I was often told it's great that you have this passion. It's great that you have found a way to make ADR as your first career, but you've done so in a way that has cut off other opportunities so that you don't have the status, you don't make the money, and you won't get those things ever because you started out so young. So I'm curious if that's also been your experience, and if it has been, if it's still worth it to you. Because for me, it 100% was. But I don't know if that's true for everybody. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the ADR field, you're definitely not going to jump in and have like the 6-figure salary. It's just not going to happen. Like you're not, but the reality is in a lot of legal contexts, you're not either now. I think that a lot of people walk into law school thinking like, I'm going to get that job and I'm going to be immediately making that money and have that status. But the reality is, I mean, at least from my experience with my friends, like you're the one getting coffee, sleeping under your desk and, waiting on your hand and foot on the other attorneys. So it's not as though all of a sudden you're kind of elevated to that. So I think there's that comparison of like, we think something is the way it is in the legal field, but it's not always that way. In ADR, I mean, again, I had the great opportunity of having a position where I was salaried. And so I had a salary. Was it anywhere with what I would be making in a law firm? No. But to me, it was a balance of like that passion and getting experience, and a lower salary was worth it. But the thing is too, you have to think there's benefits of working with someone because you get this great opportunity, but there's also benefits to working for yourself. So I went out and started my own firm, particularly because my husband and I have a number of businesses that we run, and flexibility is really important to us, and flexibility with our time is, but it also allows me to have a lot more work-life balance, but still make good money. It's not as though you are not going to make money because you're in the ADR field. You just have to be willing to build up your clientele and give them a great experience. I have my grandfather is a businessman, and he always says, when you're starting with new clients, they can pay you nothing, but as long as you give them the best experience in the world, you'll continue to make amazing money later in life because they will tell everyone that they know. And that's the thing. You just have to be the best that you can be for your clients, and you will get referral after referral after referral. Most of my clients now are referrals. I don't really do any advertising. I do some here and there, but most of it's, I heard of you from here, or this person told me this. So I think it's just allowing your business to grow, but you definitely can make good income in ADR. The other part of that is you're closing yourself off. I've heard that a lot. So I've had a lot of people that fear, if I start in family mediation or I start in mediation, I can't go anywhere else. The thing is, the skills that you're learning are applicable to absolutely everything that you do in life, and you are going to have much better communication and settlement skills than the average attorney is going to as a mediator. So particularly if you're willing to continue to build your education on negotiation, conflict de-escalation skills, communication skills, helping people learn how to negotiate at the table, you can walk into a law firm if you really wanted to, and you didn't like the ADR field anymore, you felt like you needed to have another role, and you would have a huge skill set that you did not have when you walked out of law school. So I think it's just the perspective. It's the perspective of comparing it to this law firm ideal that we think is there that often isn't the case, but also it's comparing it to, well, they don't mediate at this firm, so I won't be able to get a job. You absolutely have the skill set, and you learn so many skills as a mediator that as long as you know how to tailor them right on your resume, you're going to be able to talk about them all day long. So you'll still be able to get in that field. It's just a question of, I don't see many people enter the ADR field that then want to go to the legal field, because why would you want to? So I think people who are in the ADR field absolutely fall in love with ADR, and then you're an ADR person for life. It's not that I have so many attorneys that I work with here, and they litigate, and I love them, and I love the work they do, and they do great work for their clients. It does not mean that I ever want to do what they do, which is why I have them. So I can sit with my clients, and we can have great conversations where they're reaching agreements and working through the emotions that they never did, and just getting all of that out on the table so that they can be successful parents and, former spouses in the future. Like you get this, it's almost like a little bit of an addiction. You get this little mediation high, and then you can't get rid of it. You wouldn't trade it for litigating. So for those that worry, like once you get in the ADR field, you're pretty much stuck. We keep you here forever, and then you never leave.
The door's not actually closed on you, but the likelihood of you wanting to walk
to
through
go back.
it.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Very low. I've seen very few people go back to litigating after they mediate.
That's awesome.
Actually, it's very funny in Arizona. A lot of the attorneys that I talk to now, they have litigated for years and they're so tired and all they want to do is do ADR. And so like at ASU, we do, at least so far, we do 1 40-hour training a year. And a lot of who we get as our attendees for that 40-hour training are attorneys because they are just so exhausted from their career and they want to be more settlement minded and they want to mediate. And so it's one of those things where I look at it as I had such a great opportunity because I just got to start there. Like I didn't have to go through like I didn't have to go through the litigating cases I didn't want to and feeling burnt out from that. Not saying you can't burn yourself out in ADR because you can, but I just feel so grateful that I got the opportunity to start there instead of, now I'm at an age where I could almost retire and I've had to hire a bunch of associates to take on my litigation so I can start a mediation practice. It's one of those things where you can start it at any time, but to me, if you can be in it your whole career, why not?
Why not? I love that. You got to start there. Where they want to go now, you've been.
Exactly.
It's the beginning. Kristyn, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. You've had such a interesting, unique experience working in 2 different states and with some of these great mentors. Again, many who are on the blog, Brian Pappas, Michael Orrit. So it's awesome. It's awesome. ASU is lucky to have you for sure.
Well,
and all of your other businesses.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.